Chapter 2. A Stranger's Request. Turi straightened his back and looked at the window. He could see nothing, not even a shadow. So he might almost have imagined it. If only that were true. He couldn't do as the voice had asked, no matter how urgent it sounded. Turi hid his face in his hands and tried to banish every thought from his mind. But again, he heard the voice, very clearly, even though it was no more than a whisper. "In the name of God, open the door." It sounded even more urgent than before. Turi looked at his friends. They didn't appear to have heard anything, but he had definitely heard the voice. "In the name of God, open the door." What could he do? He wasn't allowed to open the door. But if it was someone who was in need of help, a fugitive in search of sanctuary? He listened. All was silent again, but the voice was still echoing in his ears. He would never be able to forget it. Oh, why did this have to happen now of all times? Why did he have to be the one who heard the plea? He was not allowed to respond, but he knew that he would be unable to rest until he had done so. Then Turi made a decision. Quietly, he stood up, stiff from kneeling on the cold floor for so long. Feeling his way along the wall, he tiptoed towards the door. He glanced at his friends and thought at first that they had not noticed anything. But then he saw Armand looking in his direction. He knew his friend would never betray him. It seemed to take forever to reach the door of the chapel. Turi looked back one more time at his friends, at the altar, and at the shields above, at the light of the 4 candles, and at the dark shadows throughout the chapel, between the columns and around the vaulted ceilings. Then he headed to the door and put his hand on the key. "If I open this door," he thought, "I'll have broken the rules, and then the king will not knight me tomorrow." Turi turned the key, opened the door crack, and peered out into the night. A man stood outside the door, dressed in a monk's habit. With the hood pulled down over his eyes, Turi could not see his face. It was too dark. He opened the door a little wider and waited in silence for the man to speak. "Thank you," whispered the stranger. Turi did not reply. The stranger waited for a moment and then said, still in a whisper, "I need your help. It's a matter of life and death. Will you help me, please?" When Turi did not reply, he said, "My God, why won't you say something?" "How can you expect me to help you?" whispered Turi. "Why have you come here? Don't you know that I'm to be knighted tomorrow, and that I may speak to no one?" "I know that," answered the stranger. "This is why I come to this place." "Well, you should have gone somewhere else," Turi said. "Now I've broken the rules, so I cannot be knighted tomorrow." "You will be knighted, and you will have earned your knighthood," said the stranger. "A knight must help when his assistance is requested, must he not? Come outside, and I shall explain what I need you to do. Hurry, for there's little time." "What do I have to lose now?" thought Turi. "I've already spoken, and I've opened the door, so why not leave the chapel too?" The stranger took him by the hand and led him around the outside of the chapel. His hand felt bony and wrinkled. It was the hand of an old man. His voice sounded old as well, thought Turi. Who could he be? The stranger stopped beside a small, dark alcove. "Let's hide here," he whispered, "and we must speak quietly so that no one can hear us." Then he released Turi's hand and asked, "What's your name?" "Turi," he answered. "Ah, Turi, I know I shall be able to count on you. What do you want of me?" asked Turi. The stranger leant close and whispered into his ear, "I have a letter here, with a message of vital importance. One might even say that the fate of an entire kingdom depends on it. It is a letter for King Unuwin." King Unuwin? Turi had heard the name many times before. He reigned over the land to the west of the mountains, and was renowned as a noble and just ruler. This letter must be taken across the great mountains to the city of the king, to the king in the city of Unuwin, said the stranger, as quickly as possible. "You expect me?" Turi began. "No," said the stranger, interrupting him. "The man who shall deliver the letter is the Black Knight with the white shield. At this moment, he is in the forest, at the Yakavara Inn. What I need you to do is take this letter to him. I cannot do it myself, as I am old and there are enemies all around who are pursuing me and who know my face. Why do you not ask someone else, said Turi. The city is full of knights right now, and there must be plenty of men you can trust. I cannot ask any of those knights, responded the stranger. They would attract too much attention. Did I not tell you that there are enemies everywhere? Spies are lying in wait throughout the city, just looking for an opportunity to steal this letter. A famous knight is no good to me. I need someone who is unknown and who will go unnoticed, but at the same time, I must be able to trust him with this letter. In other words, I'm looking for someone who is a knight and yet not a knight. You are the best. You are the one I need. You have been found worthy of being knighted tomorrow, but you are still young and have no reputation for your valiant deeds. And yet I know I can trust you. Turi could find no argument to counter his words. He tried again to make out the stranger's features, but it was still too dark. So this letter is of great importance, he said. Of more importance than you could ever imagine, whispered the stranger. Come, you must hesitate no longer, he continued, his voice trembling. We're wasting too much time. Near this place, behind the chapel, there's a horse in a meadow. If you take it, you can be at the end within 3 hours. Sooner if you ride quickly. It is about 1:15 now. You can be back by 7 when King Dagonot's men will come to fetch you. Please do as I ask. Turi knew he could not refuse. The rules that a future knight had to follow were important, but this appeal for this assistance seemed to matter even more. I will do it, he said. Give me the letter and tell me how to find the inn. My thanks, said the stranger. He quickly continued in a whisper. The place where he is to be found is called the Yakavara Inn. Do you know King Dagonot's hunting lodge? Behind it, there is a track that heads northwest. Right along it until you reach a clearing in the forest. 2 paths run on from there. Take the left-hand path, and it will lead you to the inn. As for the letter, you must promise me, on your honor as a knight, that you will guard it as you would your own life, and give it to no one other than the Black Knight with the white shield. I am not yet a knight, said Turi, but if I were, I would promise it on my honor as a knight. Good. If someone tries to steal the letter, you must destroy it, but only if it's absolutely necessary. Understood? Understood, said Turi. And mark this well. When you find the Black Knight with the white shield, you must ask him. Why is your shield white? And he will respond, because white contains every color. Then he will ask you, where do you come from? You must answer, I come from afar. Only after that exchange should you hand over the letter. Like a password, said Turi. Exactly, a password. Do you understand exactly what you need to do? Yes, said Turi. Please give me the letter. One last thing, said the stranger. Be careful. You must make sure that you are not followed. Here is the letter. Guard it well. Turi took the letter. It was small and flat, and he could feel in the darkness that there were seals on it. He slipped it under his shirt, close to his chest. You won't lose it if you keep it there, will you? Asked the stranger. No, Turi replied. It's the safest place. The stranger grasped his hands and shook them firmly. Then go, he said, and God bless you. He let go of Turi's hands, turned around, and slipped back into the darkness. Turi waited for a moment, then walked, quickly and quietly, in the opposite direction. He looked over at the dimly lit windows of the chapel, where his friends were still keeping their vigil before the altar. Come on, he whispered to himself. You have to hurry. And he went in search of the meadow where the stranger had told him he would find a horse waiting.